Okay. Hello, Mum. Well, I got up after having a little nap, and I thought, well, I want a nice dinner. So, but I was having a nap, so I'm not all alert, didn't want a big deal. But I also want to have something that I can have for the next day or two. So, what do I think of? I think of my wonderful Le Creuset pot. And I thought, well, since you are now a member of the Le Creuset Club, I thought I would do a little video for you while I prepare my little meal. So I put it, I'll put this one back. See, I think this is exactly like yours, just I have this one in a red color. I bought this I bought this one in Florida, and we lugged this back because they actually have an outlet shop in Florida, so I got a very good price on it. And Stephen was somewhat cursing because we had to take this carry-on, so it was a very heavy carry-on package, but we got a very good price on it. Anyway, I use this pot a lot. The size is perfect for 2 people. Anyway, so I put some items out here to show you. This is not all you need for one pot. This is just some items that I find are very, very good to have in stock. And a lot of them you'll actually find that you have in stock. How shall we'll start? Okay, from left to right. I always find it's good to have like some V8 juice or tomato juice is always good, because if you're doing any sort of vegetable dish where you might have tomatoes or something and you want to have and this is generally with cooking, if you want to add a little extra liquid but not dilute the flavor, instead of, this is like at the end of the cooking process where you find, oh, you just need a little extra liquid in it, instead of adding water, add some V8 or tomato juice. So I always have, and mind you, I like drinking this, and you can get it low sodium, so I always keep this in stock for that. But generally, for starting with liquids, the beef broth and chicken broth are just great. So you always want to, and I use a whole box of this anyway, and just for whatever dish I'm making, I put the whole box in, no need to measure. And for tomatoes, believe it or not, even better than buying tomatoes in the store, the best, most fresh tomatoes you can get are tinned whole tomatoes, because they go right into the can from when they're being picked. So from when they get off the vine into the can is a shorter period of time than from getting picked and getting to the grocery store generally, unless you're, you know, getting them from a farmer's market on season or out of a garden or something. Not the crushed, not the not the crushed, not the diced, not the with extra Italian spices type or all that. Whole tomatoes. And they're so easy to mush up. I mean, I've even used a manual musher, like you can use it, stick them in a bowl and use a potato musher, or I use my bullet, which you do have one of those. Just stick the tomato parts in, you know, and drain the tomato juice, and just run it through your magic bullet, and you can just mush this up. And that's instant tomato sauce also if you're making spaghetti. And then just add your own little bit of oregano or whatever to it. That's the best tomatoes. I use that for tomato sauce all the time. Great. I mean, I always keep multiples of these in the pantry. These are excellent. Frozen orange juice. Because if you're making a dish like pork or veal, I always like to make a little composite of diced apples, dried apricots, walnuts, and put that in a little pile at the side of the dish while it's cooking, and putting a little bit of frozen orange juice on top of it. And because it's got a little bit of, you know, because it does have some syrupy content to it, you put that on top of the mound of it, and then it bakes into the walnuts and apples and apricots, and it makes a wonderful texture. So and it's just great to have some of that in the freezer for making those dishes. Okay, I love pine nuts. They're expensive, but if you, you know, even for salads, I mean, you can use the pot with just a bit of oil in them, and once in a while just toast yourself some pine nuts and add them to a salad, or into it, especially those, same thing with the white meat recipes. I love pine nuts, so I always try to keep some pine nuts on hand. And the rice, well, I always keep lots of rice. My preference for rice, this is Italian risotto, a super fine. Okay. Well, anyway, if you take a look at this, you might recognize it. But I find this is absolutely delicious rice. It's same thing. I think it is a little more expensive. This is UNESCO, right? Oh, Unico rice. But the hard short grain, I think it's the short grain rice. I prefer that myself. But you can use, I use that. Just don't use that minute rice stuff when you're doing this. You want real rice. Same thing with the barley. I use pearl barley. I find works very well. I keep them in a container. Okay, you can get these in little sizes, but since I use these a lot, I buy them in larger sizes. Always, if you can find them fresh, get them fresh. I just find that often I buy fresh spices and I don't use them quick enough, so I often buy I end up buying dried stuff. But if you're up to it and you make something fresh, buy the fresh spices if you can, or if you can make get one of those little herb gardens. I always wanted to do that. If you want to do it, go for it. A little herb garden that you can put in your window or put outside in the, you know, maybe add some to your garden next summer. Wow, that would be so cool. I don't have a garden here, but that would be a great idea. But what I have is, I always like parsley flakes in chicken soup, you know, just because it's cool. Fresh garlic, as you were talking about, is the best, but we're talking easy here. This is kind of the discussion. So I always buy a big thing of garlic powder. You can buy these in the, I get this at Superstore, so I always buy the large pack because I use it all the time, and then I'm not replacing it so often, and it's usually less expensive. So I buy a big one of garlic powder. The sea salt. I like sea salt. I find I don't need very much of it to add the salt flavor. For whatever reason, you don't need much compared to this is just my perception. It might be just, you know, out there, but I find you just need a pinch of sea salt compared to a lot of shakes of the regular salt. And it's got a little more grit to it, but I like it. So I buy the big sea salt. And you can obviously fill in all your little canisters with it around the house. And Montreal steak spice. Did you know there was such a thing? Same thing, I buy a large one because I use it it adds a lot of flavor to beef, any beef dish. So you could probably use it for other things too. Like anything I'm making with just ground beef, I add that too. A bit of beef with it. I love this with any beef dish. Balsamic, anything, yeah, mostly beef, or if I'm making any pasta dishes with tomatoes and ground beef or anything, balsamic vinegar. This one here is President's Choice. I found has been very good. I just find you put that in a tomato sauce, anything like that, and it just gives you a bit of a kick. It makes such a difference in the flavor. It makes a difference between tasting like regular bland tomato sauce and tasting like you're out at a restaurant. Adding something like that. Balsamic Vinegar of Modena is what this one is called. President's Choice, and that's probably from Superstore. Liquid smoke, it's just something I like because it's mesquite flavored, and having spent time in West Texas, I like the taste of mesquite. I add a little bit, actually, for, you know, I'll put a little bit of that in a marinade or something, for, especially for doing, you know,